Good morning, my friends. What is going on, guys? I know it's been a little while. I do apologize for that. I feel like my videos have been kind of intermittent the last couple of months. So please forgive me for that. I am trying to get them out as often as I can, but trying not to sacrifice the content quality, if you will. Instead of just, if I get a little bit of time, I don't want to just rush out a video. So I would rather do less videos with better content versus, more videos with worse content. Anyway, the video today, we are going to be doing a look at and a full review on this sweet knife right here, the Spyderco Endura 4, and this is the zdp-189 version. I do not currently have the VG10 version. I do wish to get one at some point, and of course, I'll do a review and video on that as well. Don't feel like anything will be too much different other than the steels themselves. Everything else, the specs and general use, I feel like the only real differences will be mainly, VG10 is stainless versus this is not a stainless steel, so the ZDP will be more likely to rust, and the ZDP will hold its edge longer than the VG10 will. I do also have the VG10 Spyderco Delica 4, so we'll bring this in a little bit for some comparisons. Basically just the big brother to the Endura, or the smaller brother to the Endura. But I figure while we're right here, just bring them in for some size comparison. So as we just mentioned, we got the Endura 4 with the Spyderco Delica 4, and then the infamous, at least on this channel, one of my absolute favorite knives that I have, the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. This is the base version, the S30V. And then probably the closest knife that is most similar to this in sense of size, and actually even price, to the standard model, the VG10 model. This one goes for about 40-50 bucks more than the standard VG10 version. But the cold steel broken skull, so you can see size-wise very similar, at least with the handle. The blade length on this is 4 inches, so it is a little bit longer than the Endura blade. And then finally, just because it's a very iconic knife, a lot of people do have them, but I feel like it's always good for comparison, the Rat 1 by Ontario. And this one, not that it really makes a difference for the specs or size, but this is the D2 version of the Rat 1. I also have the AUS 8 version, but it's not really that significant when it comes to the size specs. So, speaking of specs, we'll just jump into them really quick. So this knife has an overall length of 8 3/4 inches. Well, the Endura 4 in general, this one's actually a little bit shorter, but I'll get into that in a bit. And it has a 5-inch handle, so 3 3/4 inch blade, and then it's a little about 3 1/16 cutting edge. The little spot here, the blank spot on the blade there, is about, so you're just shy of 3/8. So you get about 3 1/16 to 3 1/8 of actual cutting edge. Well, like I said, not this one anymore, but we'll get into in a moment. It is, for the size of it, actually is pretty light. It's about 3.5 ounces, and the handle on it is actually pretty damn comfortable. It's a very long handle, so you can see when it's in my hand. I mean, with the full, hammer fist on it, I have, probably at least an inch poking out, depending on which way you're looking at it. And it is a pretty thin handle, but because it's so long, it gives you a lot of room for you to get your hand and get a good grip on. So I actually do like that a lot. And they give you a couple little grooves in for your finger, and I kind of like the way it's set up, because at least with my hands, I mean, I do have large size hands, so large or smaller hands might be a little different, but it's just big enough for I can fit my 2 fingers, my index and middle finger, ring finger, and then pinky, and it fits really, really comfortable. And then you do have the little, with the, I mean, it's not quite a choil, but finger choil rather, but if need be, if you're trying to do a little more delicate work, I have no issues. I can fit my finger in there fine. and it's really not uncomfortable. I'm sure if I was using it for quite a long time, because it isn't a dedicated choil, like finger choils, say like this Paramilitary 2 is, but it is still pretty comfortable. Of course, it'll be more comfortable with the Paramilitary 2 because it actually has a dedicated choil. But this knife, I've had it for actually, I think it's been about a year. I think I got it in February of last year, if I remember right. And the price has gone up since I got it. I bought it, it was going for $120. I checked within the last hour on Amazon. It's going for about $130 now. So, I mean, I've noticed Spyderco lately, they've been kind of bumping their prices up a little bit. You used to be able to get the standard Paramilitary 2 for like $120, $130. Now I've been seeing them up in the $140, $150 range. So, I guess, you know, it is what it is. But this actually is a really nice knife. It's a lot of fun to use, and because it has really broken in. I have taken it apart a couple times, and, you know, messed with the pivot, gotten it adjusted how I like. But what's cool, because it is, you know, it is a regular back lock, and, you know, I know some people, especially my brother-in-law Brian. I mean, I love the guy, but he's always talking smack about my back locks. But that's all right. But I have it kind of dialed in a way where you can use the back lock, and you can close it similar to that of a compression lock. I mean, it's not the same motion with using your finger having to move it to left or right, but with just pressing it in, you still, you know, hold it a similar way. Just depress it, and it just, you can even open it the same way too. Oops. But it's a very smooth knife, and since I've gotten it broken in, like I said, and I've gotten the pivot adjusted to where I like it, that it flicks and flies right open. I mean, of course, when I got it, it was, you know, much tighter. It hadn't broken in at all. But for what it is, I mean, I guess it doesn't really need to, you know, that one hand open and close. But for something like this, I have a lot of fun with, and I don't know, I enjoy it. It adds a nice amount of fidgetness to it, and it's cool because I got the Delica 4 dialed in the same way. And you just, so that's pretty cool. I like that. So like I said, the handle, or not the handle, the blade is a little bit shorter, so it's a little bit of a sad story. It was probably only a couple months after I had gotten it, and I was using it for food prep. As you guys know, I love using my non-traditional kitchen knives. I love using my pocket knives and fixed blades, but since I always have a pocket knife on me, I love using them for food prep. But was actually at my girl's father's house, so basically my father-in-law. We're not married yet, but, you know, been together long enough. He's my father-in-law, but was at his house, and I was cutting up chicken or something like that. Anyway, they have a tile kitchen floor, and I think the way I left this, it was just kind of hanging off the counter for a second. I turned around, I don't know, wash my hands or something, but when I turned back around, I hit it, and the knife just flipped and literally just went tip down and right onto the tile floor, and it just snapped the tip right off. Oh my God. I remember it was funny because my girl, I forget, she was doing something, but she was in the kitchen area. It's like a kitchen living room, or a kitchen dining room. But I just go, oh my God. And she's like, oh, what happened? She thought I cut myself. And I was like, oh, I would have rather I cut myself because I can heal, the blade won't. But I will say, you know, not tooting the horn, but I think that, you can't even tell now, unless you measure it. But you really can't even tell unless you try and get a good, you know, just the blade. I don't know. I lost probably close to a little less than, about an eighth of an inch. Say a little less than an eighth of an inch. Maybe 3/32, but just snapped right off. But I was able to fix it. I mean, it was a good amount of work. I mean, ZDP is a little bit of a beast to sharpen, let alone having to reform it. But, I mean, I was able to do it. I just had to use, I used the side of my coarsest stone. You know, probably, and I was very delicate with it, you know, taking my time, because, you know, you can always take away material, you can't always add. But I took my time, whatever. I probably spent about 10 minutes just delicately just reshaping, because I went from the edge up to the spine. I know sometimes people will go from the spine, bring it down to the edge. I don't know, it's just how I did it, and it turned out pretty well. I mean, like I said, you know, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, you know, so it happens. I mean, if it was a softer steel, or a different steel, could it have still snapped off? Absolutely. You know, it definitely would have taken damage no matter what the hell it was. It, you know, at the very least probably would have just smushed the tip in a little bit, or maybe just on the edge itself it would have just snapped off. But no, this like I literally had a flat, like blunt tip. But like I said, I was able to profile it or reshape it on the stone, and it did fine. You know, it took a good amount of time sharpening it then to, you know, bring everything back together, but I was really happy with how it turned out, and it's been fine ever since. I've been much more careful, making sure not to leave my blades hanging off the side of a table, counter, or anything like that. Oh, so you guys see, I got a new tattoo recently. It's a shrimp mermaid. Well, that's alright, it's irrelevant. But yeah, so the zdp-189. So this, as of now, is the only knife I have in this steel, but I love this steel. It is really cool because it takes an edge very well. I mean, you have to put the work in, but it will take it. I've probably sharpened this, including when I snapped the tip off and had to do all that. I've probably only done 3 like full actual sharpenings, not counting, you know, just touching up on a stone and then stropping. But when I first got it, as you guys know, whenever I get a knife, I like to sharpen it. But generally what I'll do is I'll stick with the factory bevel, just kind of see how I like it, and then I'll bring it in. Now this one, I've reprofiled it. So that was, yeah. So the first time I sharpened it was just a factory edge, just to, you know, neaten it up. And it was good. It was fine. It's just, I don't know. I really like sharpening, and I really like just just really seeing what I can get out of an edge. And so far, it's actually been fine. I haven't really regretted, like, oh my god, I brought it in way too much with the steel yet. Not that it couldn't be fixed, but, you know, probably just over a few sharpenings, it would just look a little weird as, you know, you just naturally bring it back in. But, you know, so there was the initial sharpening I did on it, and then probably a month later did the reprofile, and then probably a month after that I snapped the tip off. But since then, so when I did it was probably, so the last time I actually, like, you know, soup to nuts through all the stones was probably like 8-9 months ago. You know, and it was definitely before my kid was born, so, and she just hit 7 months, so it's been at least that long. Now that being said, I mean, you know, I do maintenance with the strops, but, you know, sometimes, you know, if you let it go a little too long, or maybe just get like a little teeny imperfection in the edge, you know, what I'll do is I'll throw it on my 10,000 grit stone, and I'm talking just holding it and just doing the passes. You know, I'll do maybe like a dozen or so passes, and it's just to bring that edge right out, you know, and then of course on the strop. But now, like I said, I mean, it's a hard steel. I mean, I believe Spyderco does it, it's at 64 on the Rockwell. And what's nuts is, from what I've done some reading with ZDP, I think it's recommended, or not so much recommended, but the, like, range of where you can harden it can go up to 67 before it just becomes, like, now it's just a brittle mess. I mean, I guess you can argue, but, you know, about me dropping it, and, you know, if it wasn't so hard, maybe if it was at, like, you know, 60 or 61. But I imagine if it was at like 67, what could have happened? I could have lost maybe a half-inch of blade, or just shattered the knife if it was over that. But 67, that's pretty damn hard. But it can absolutely be done. I mean, you guys have seen my stones if you've seen any of my sharpening videos or tutorials or anything. You know, the fanciest stone I have is really just like a mid-range stone, which is that King KDS, the 1000, 6000 grit, which is a great stone. But, you know, but for all the reprofiling, I'm just using, you know, Smith stones that I've gotten at Walmart, and they've done great. Especially the coarsest one, because it's a double side. It's like a 100 and like a 220, something like that. And that's what I've done the reprofiling with. And of course, yeah, you know, it takes a good while. And once I get better stones, I'm sure doing stuff similar on steels up like, you know, this or 110V or M4 or whatever will definitely need a little more, or definitely won't take quite the amount of time. But once you get the edge and the angle and everything that you wanted, I mean, it's very easy to maintain. I mean, I can, you know, even if I have to throw it on the stones for a minute or so, or a couple minutes on that 10,000 grit. I mean, I can go from dull, won't really cut paper, definitely not shaving hair, and then maybe 4 or 5 minutes between the stone and the strop, and I'm back to, whittling hairs with it. And, I mean, of course, part of that can be attributed to, the steel quality and everything like that, but it's a very good steel. And if you're, able to sharpen or, have the ability to sharpen and maintain stuff like that, I don't think it'll be a bad way to go at all. I mean, the VG10 is a really good steel. I mean, the Endura 4, the Delica 4, I'm sorry, that I have is the VG10, and I love VG10. I mean, VG10, it's, it's not super steel by any means, but it is a good steel. It's very stainless. That's one thing I do really like about it. And for a very, for a pretty stainless steel, it holds its edge pretty decent. It doesn't have the edge retention of, say, I mean, obviously the ZDP. I mean, what I have here with me that I've shown, it's probably closest edge retention is probably to D2, and D2 definitely does have a little better edge retention. But as opposed to the CTSX HP on the Broken Skull or the S30V on the PM2, but it is a good edge holding steel. I really like it a lot. That's why a lot of like higher end knives, especially Japanese knives, use VG10. But some of them too, I guess, are using the ZDP, because it is a Japanese steel. ZDP, I believe. Hitachi, if I'm pronouncing it right, and if I am right, I believe it's Hitachi makes it. And from the VG10 knives that I have, and the one ZDP, I do want to get more though. I really enjoy it a lot, and this knife I've actually really come to love. I mean, I've said it in many videos, especially the Paramilitary 2 review, that I carry that knife more than any other knife. I mean, granted, now having a YouTube channel the last few months, I'm carrying more knives in and out, or changing them in and out more often, because, I want to do a video, I want to get experience with the knife, and I want to get very comfortable with it, because I don't want to tell someone, oh, hey, yeah, it's a great knife, you should go buy it, and I don't really know much about it, I haven't really used it, I've only had it for a couple days, and that's why I'll do a first impression. I like doing that. I like doing a first impression video, just kind of like what I think, maybe hypothesize, get scientific, and then, a few months or whatever later, do the full review. But granted, the vast majority of my knives, probably since I've started this channel, I've maybe gotten 4 or 5 knives. I usually get maybe about one a month, or every month and a half, 2 months. Just, now with the 2 kids, I wish, trust me, if I won the lottery tomorrow, the first thing I would do is go down to my local Army-Navy store and just clear out their top 2 shelves of knives. Yeah, it's cool. I don't know if it's like that with other places, but it's like the most expensive knives are up top, and like on the second shelf, and then it's just, the lower the shelf, the lower the price. I would just be clearing out the top shelves. Be like, I don't care, I'll take 5 PM2s, whatever. Just give them as gifts. It'd be great gifts. Get more of these. This is where actually I got this. Was at my local Army-Navy store. You do some cool stuff. But like I said though, it is a really good knife. It's very slicey, and especially with the newer edge that I put on it, and snapping the tip off and having to reprofile it again. But even before, it really was very slicey. I mean, it is a flat grind, the full flat grind, so it might not be the slicing potential as, say, a hollow grind, but even still though, it, for a blade that's, about 1/8 of an inch thick, it does taper down pretty well, and it is very slicey. I mean, actually, I can do a little demonstration here. I have a little bit of cardboard, speaking of, it's on this one. Here you can see the Huggies, the diapers. Now this cardboard, it has that little film on it, but still, it's starting to come out of my hands. Oh, that was me, not the knife. But it just slices through like it's no one's business. And granted, I try to keep my knife sharp anyway, but, a lot of it's not just, you can have a really nice sharp edge, and, a good, bevel and everything, but I mean, if you got like a thick-ass knife, I mean, I've tried to cut through cardboard with my Becker BK2, which is a 1/4 inch thick blade saber ground. And yeah, I mean, that thing will split wood like you wouldn't believe, but going through cardboard, it'll do it. but like you're hating yourself after like 3 or 4 cuts, and then too the knife weighs a pound, you know. But for doing food stuff, because that's probably honestly most of the stuff I've used this knife for is food. I love cutting food with this knife. Even if I'm carrying a different knife, I will grab this. You know, I'll start cutting up the carrots and chicken, whatever. And then too, because you do have a good length of blade. You have a good amount of blade length on it. You know, so it does. I mean, like I've said in other videos, like, you know, some of the knives, it's not like, you know, you're going to cut through like a huge thick potato with it. You're going to come at it from a couple different angles. But it can absolutely be done. And it's just, it's fun to use, you know. And the Spyderco, I mean, I love them. I think I've said it before in a video. But, I mean, Benchmade too, don't get me wrong. I love Benchmade. But Spyderco and Benchmade, both of them, I'm just a slut for. You know, forgive me, I know it's not a great term, but I am a slut for their knives, but especially Spyderco. And I really think anybody who gets this knife will absolutely enjoy it. And it's a cool steel. I just find ZDP very fascinating because it's an insane performance, if you will, but it's a very simple recipe. Looking at my Blade Steel app, if you look at something, you know, I'll use, for example, S30V, which has, you know, obviously vanadium, the V, but, you know, it has the carbon and chromium. And then you got like silicon and molybdenum and, you know, things I can't even pronounce. But this is basically just carbon, chromium. I think there's like 1 or 2 other things. But it has an insane amount of carbon. It has like 3% carbon. And it doesn't sound like a lot for something, but that is a lot of carbon. But it also has 20% chromium, which is an insane amount of chromium. But the thing is that chromium, even though it's 20% chromium and 3% carbon, that chromium is eaten up by the carbon to make those carbides, to give you those, you know, so you can get those razor edges and everything. And it's funny because I think to be considered a stainless steel, it needs to be at least 13%. That's why something like D2 is kind of, I don't know, I kind of joke, I know it's not right, but I kind of joke and say D2 is like a trans steel, because it's not quite a carbon steel, it's like a semi-stainless steel. You know, it hasn't decided what it wants to identify as yet. But 13% you are considered stainless steel, and this has 20%, but this thing will rust. I've gotten rust on it before if I'm not being careful, and it's funny, it's not on the blade, it'll be like in the pivot area, because like I said, I've taken it apart a couple times to clean it. And it's mostly just due to the food stuff, and it's not from getting food up in there. It'll be when I'm washing it. I just have to be really careful to not let the water from the faucet coming down with the pressure just shooting it up into the blade. You know, because with other knives, if it's like my paramilitary too, it's S30, that's not going to rust. I mean, if I left it in water, yeah, but I mean, it'll dry out. I've never had a speck of rust on that blade. But this will definitely get it. But you be a little more careful with it. You know, use a little extra oil. Just make sure I get everything all nice and clean in there. But I love this knife, and I don't want to have the video go on and on and on. I know we're coming up a little late. I don't know, probably coming up on 24 minutes. I just noticed too, I have spit up on my shirt from the baby. Oops. It is from the baby. It's not me. Just spitting up on myself. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. The phone going off there. But that's really just about it with the video there. I mean, if you guys have any questions, if you guys have an Endura 4, if you have the ZDP one, the VG10 one, what do you guys think? Let me know. I would love to talk about it. Oh my God. I'm sorry, guys. Just doing this in my garage. We have a phone. I still got the landline, right? Who still got landlines? Actually, up to a couple of years ago, I was still using AOL. It was funny. I would tell people about my email address. I'd be like, yeah, at AOL.com. They'd be like, "Are you serious, bro?" I'm like, yeah. They're like, I didn't even know it was still around anymore. It's not anymore. I'm a Gmail guy now. But, there we go. But yeah, so just let me know, guys, because I love talking about this. I love talking with you guys in the comments. I mean, whenever I do get comments, I always try to respond as quick as I can. Sometimes I don't notice them right away, or it might be the next day if it's later at night, depending when I get them. But I really do try my best to respond to every comment that I get. At the very least, to give it a like. I do appreciate it, positive, negative, anything. Just, everything helps me grow in this channel and everything. So, any feedback from you guys is always much appreciated. Just please don't be too mean about it. But you guys have a great rest of your day, night, weekend. Going into the weekend, it's Friday. But I really hope you guys like the review. Hope you guys might even consider the knife. I got a little bit of from my pocket. A little bit of thread there. But, and I forgot to mention too, probably be important for our left-handed friends. So, of course, being a backlock is ambidextrous, but you have tip up, tip down, left and right hand carry. So that's pretty cool. And then too, I do love the black clips. I just love when they the little paint comes off. I know some people don't like it, but to me it just kind of adds to the character. And then, I don't know, and it will patina. That's another thing too, because I have seen, in other videos or pictures on like Instagram or, Facebook knife pages that I'm in. People post pictures and they will patina. I don't know, I think maybe I gotta start cutting and using more acidic stuff. I love that, I don't know, that character. It just makes it that much more, that much more unique. But anyway, you guys have a great rest of your whatever it is, because when you're watching it, it might not be today. It could be another day. So have a great rest of your whatever. And please remember to comment, subscribe, like, share.